In this lesson, we're going to learn how to delete and add XAML pages within our Silverlight application. We're also going to look at how Silverlight phone applications know which page to load when it first starts up. So let's do this. We're going to go over here to our Solution Explorer, and I'm going to right-click and select Delete. I can also use the Delete key on my keyboard. And it's going to pop open a dialog that asks, are you sure you want to delete this page? Yes. All right, so now if we try to run our application, nothing will happen at all. We'll get an error, actually. Okay, and that makes sense because we don't have any XAML pages. So let's remedy that situation. There's a couple of different ways that we can add a new XAML page to our existing application. We can right-click onto the name of the project. Here we have a solution file. Below that we have the name of a project. We'll talk about the difference between solutions and projects a little bit later. Just make sure that you have the entry in the Solution Explorer that has the C# icon next to it. Okay, you're going to right-click that and select Add New Item. Since it's off to the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to select a different way to add a new item. I'm going to go to this little icon next to our open and save buttons, and it's called Add New Item. So I'm just going to click that, and it opens up the Add New Item dialog box. There's several options here, but I want to make sure to select the first one, Windows Phone Portrait Page. So you can see that there's also a landscape page. We'll talk about these a little bit later. And I want to rename this, so I'm going to highlight everything before the file extension, before the .xaml. I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard. I'm going to rename this My First XAML Page. Try to make sure to name it closely to what I've named it so that you don't have any issues a little bit later on when you're looking at your code and it's different from mine. This would be the easiest way to alleviate that possibility up front. Then we're going to click the Add button. So after a moment, we're going to see in the Solution Explorer a new XAML page called My First XAML Page, and we can extend it and see that it also has a .xaml.cs file. And then we have an empty My First XAML Page.xaml designer here in the main area. So what I'm going to do is pretty much duplicate the exact steps that we took previously when we created our Hello World application. So I'm going to just quickly, not with a lot of explanation, drag and drop a button and a text block. I'll resize the text block like we did before. I'm going to select the button. I'm going to change its name to My Button. Or I'll tell you what, let's call this the Click Me button, okay? Like we said we would. And then we're going to change its content to Click Me. We'll go to the text block now. We're going to name it, and just to show you don't have to do it in any particular order, I'm going to remove the text from the text property, and then I'm going to rename this My Hello World Text Block. Okay, and then I'm going to double click the Click Me button to open up the code behind file, the C# code behind file called myfirstxamlpage.xaml.cs. And I'm going to write that code. I believe, let me see if I remember what I called it. Hello World, My Hello World text block. We'll talk about this little menu that pops up below what you're typing. It's called IntelliSense. We'll talk about that in the next video. I'm going to set its text property equal to Hello World, to that literal string, and I'm going to use a semicolon at the end. I'm going to save everything that I've done. Okay, now I would expect when I run the application for everything to work just like it did previously, before we deleted out our main page.xaml. So I'm going to start debugging the application. And before it gets very far, we're going to hit this system.diagnostics.debugger.break. And the purpose of this is so that the errors page can allow, or the errors collection can let us know that there is a problem with our code. But for right now, I'm going to expand this this locals tab while the application is still running before I hit the stop debugging button. We'll talk about debugging in the next video. I'm going to drill in to this E and look at the exception, hover my mouse cursor over it, and it says no XAML was found at the location main page.xaml. Now again, that may not be entirely descriptive of the real problem going on here, but I can kind of deduce what's going on here, and that is that there's still a reference to that main page.xaml file that no longer exists in our project. Meanwhile, there's no new reference to our new page, myfirstxamlpage.xaml. So to rectify that, we're going to stop debugging the application by clicking the little blue stop button in the toolbar. And then what I'm going to do is go to this, let's see, I believe it's in the properties. Yes, in the properties folder. So you can see there's a little folder called properties. I'm going to double click this wm-app-manifest.xml file. All right, and this file, it's a manifest, just like a ship's manifest. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but it keeps track of everything that belongs to this application, like a checklist, okay? And one of the checklists here is the default task. So we have this tasks owns a default task, and then the navigation page equals mainpage.xaml. We're going to need to change that to set the startup page for our application. We changed it, so let's change it now to myfirstxamlpage.xaml. Let's take a second and just make sure we called it the correct thing, because if we don't, we're going to run into the same error and might even confuse ourselves. So I take a second, look at it, myfirstxamlpage.xaml. Looks good. I'm going to save my work, and I'm going to try to start debugging the application again. And this time it looks like the application has at least started correctly. Let's click the Click Me button. Hello World pops open. We did it again. We rebuilt our first Silverlight phone application. Excellent. All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. In this lesson, we learned the following: how to delete something from our project, in this case a XAML page, how to add a new XAML page to our project. Later we're going to learn how to navigate between two or more XAML pages. Okay, and then we looked at how and where our Silverlight applications keep track of some initial information about startup and things of that nature. The wm-app-manifest.xml file that's in the properties folder of our solution, of our project, is created automatically for us. It has default properties set, but we can get in and change certain things about this if we need to, in order to change things about our application, how it executes, at least initially at startup. Okay, so now what would probably be a good idea is if we take a quick break and we look at the Visual Studio 2010 Express for Windows Phone IDE. Remember what that stood for? The Integrated Development Environment. Let's learn a little bit more about the tools that are available to us. We've kind of glossed past things like IntelliSense and things like debugging, but let's spend a little time in looking at those tools so that we have a better understanding of the tool set available to us as we begin to develop applications and learn the C# programming language. See you in the next video. Thank you.